We need to take care of what we have here.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay.
I think that happened last time, Mayor. Sorry for the interruption.
How rude of them to interrupt me. I was really on a roll there. You know, I was just about ready to finish up, thinking I didn't want to say anything because I know the president's going to have a few things to say. So, you know, what's going on out there? We need to protect what we have here. I think just through the night, Jen, I sent you an article on the recreational attributes of Lake Erie, which we never want to forget, that it's not just the fact that it's a source water for a lot of people to drink, but it's recreational opportunities. And obviously the fishing industry is big as well. So with that, again, just thank you for being on here today. And thank you for all your help on this. I do one other thing. I do expect results. I mean, I want to see something tangible. We've talked about this for a long, long time. If you're looking at the screen right now and you're saying, is the mayor losing weight? Well, he is. 55 pounds. I know that because I know what I weighed back in July when I caught hell from my doctor. And I know what I weighed this morning, and I made that 55-pound benchmark. So we want to see measurable results, and yeah, thumbs up. It's been a long 6 months, Richanne. So we want to move ahead with this, and I'm anxious to see some results. With that, I'll shut up.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for taking the call when I said I have an idea. And thank you to Bobby Mills for planting an idea about how we might go about getting some funding. What we knew as we started is collaborative projects work well when you're asking legislators for funding. And in this case, it did work. We can live longer without food than we can without water. I think it's only 3 days that human beings can live without water. So what we want to do is bring the stakeholders together, place no blame, and gather data so that we can find solutions. And we're not the only, even as a collaborative entity, we're not the only game in this project. There are many other entities working on the water, especially the Lake Erie water concern, because we're at the, as we all know, at the shallow end of Lake Erie when we get to Toledo. So I look forward to bringing people together. When we do, it's messy. And we want to work through the messiness. We want to look at the data and let the data guide us to the best decisions, but not just because Defiance College and the City of Defiance think so, but because the other stakeholders, the farmers, the students who are learning, other researchers that have guidance and have brought us to this point. So very thankful to Dr. Brown and Dr. Caldwell for working on the labs, getting our student researchers lined up to go out and take water and soil samples, and look forward to, like the mayor says, the results. We hope that this broad swath, because we're the largest watershed to Lake Erie in this region, we are excited that we can add some knowledge, and that leads to a solution that is sustainable for all of us. So thank you. I look forward to listening now.
Thank you, Mayor McCann and Dr. Mankey. So we wouldn't be here without Senator Brown's office and without the help of Erica Kraus. So I gave her the opportunity, if she wanted to, she or anyone else from Senator Brown's office wanted to share and welcome the group. So.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Dr. Mankey and Mayor McCann. So for those of you that don't know, my name is Erica Kraus. I'm the Senator's Northwest Ohio Regional Representative. And then I'm joined by a few of my colleagues on for today's meeting. So the Senator couldn't be on this meeting today, but he was so happy to support this project for Defiance College in the City of Defiance as one of his congressionally directed spending requests for the previous fiscal year. in part because he knows that Lake Erie is one of our state's most important resources. It's part of who we are as a region and as the state of Ohio. And that this funding is going to help establish a new Maumee River Watershed Research Center specifically in Defiance that's going to support important research that's going to help protect the lake, our rivers, our streams, that of course provide drinking water to millions of Ohioans and people in our region in Indiana and Michigan, and provide educational opportunities for young people. And, you know, those are some of our most vital resources we have as a state. And that's why he tasked all of us in his office with working together with the City of Defiance and Defiance College to support these efforts. And we were, you know, really thrilled that we were successful. When I started in the job, Lake Erie was one of the key issues that the mayor and I talked about right away. And so it's really exciting to be here today. And I will also just be listening like Dr. Maumee. I'm very excited.
Thanks, Erica. Thanks for being here and for inviting some of your colleagues. We have a nice mix of folks here today. And you've already heard from our executive committee co-chairs. So I'm just going to run through a few slides, just a few introductions. If anybody has questions, I would encourage you to use the chat function. We'll be monitoring that. Sabrina and Joe are both helping with monitoring the chat. So if anybody has questions that you want to see addressed now during the webinar or after the fact, please send us those questions. And if anybody has anything that they need to interject, that's fine too. We're kind of gonna just go with the flow, and we will just run through kind of the introductions. We'll go through sort of the background and some of the project objectives. Dr. Brown is going to go into kind of the timeline and the management plan. We really don't have any intent of getting down in the details and down in the weeds. We've been meeting on this for quite some time. But we're still really at the beginning of a 3-year project. So you'll see some of the documents that we laid out, sort of our guiding documents, and then we'll give you an opportunity at the end to ask questions, have discussion. Dr. Brown and I will certainly be available past the hour. I think we can get through all of our slides and through all of the formal presentation in an hour or less easily. And then we'll stick around if anybody wants to spend time talking. So I'll just run through these. Anybody has anything, just feel free to let me know. Bear with me as I get the slideshow going. So you met our 2 co-chairs, and thank you for welcoming everyone, Dr. Maumee and Mayor McCann. We're looking to them for guidance and support, and like the mayor said, holding us accountable for some of those results that we're looking for. So Dr. Caldwell from Defiance College has been a key part, and I know she's meeting regularly with Dr. Brown. Ryan Mack is our relatively new city administrator, and he was not able to be here today. He's at a conference in Columbus, but he will be right there as a support person as well. So Sabrina and I are both working as officially members of the executive committee, but also as the core working group. So we meet regularly. We meet once a week. On normal weeks and normal months, we meet weekly individually, and then we also meet every other week with our core working group members, most of whom are on the call today. Caitlin Smith is there with Dr. Brown. So if you want to wave, Kat, thank you for being here. Sabrina, I don't know if you want to say anything about her position or about her role.
Sure. So Kat is the freshwater research technician here at Defiance College. We wrote her into the grant for the first year to really get a lot of our research protocols and lab establishment procedures together.
Yeah, thanks. So Adam McDowell is our superintendent at the water treatment plant with a nice nice updated office with a view of the Maumee River right behind him. Joe Ewers is our assistant superintendent at the water treatment plant. We would not be doing this project without him. Kevin Connor is with water pollution control. He and Joe work closely together in their respective labs. So they work with the lab technicians and the chemists. Joe is here today, obviously, but Kevin could not be here. So, but they're both critical in that hands-on data analysis and data collection. And then finally, Bruce Cleland from Tetra Tech is a technical advisor. He is not in Defiance. He does occasionally come to Defiance, but he's on the far west coast. But he's been working with the city for a number of years, looking at the data that we've been collecting. There was a point where we're collecting it with volunteers, science teachers, soil and water conservation district, and now we have a set schedule where our staff from the water and wastewater plant do that work. But Bruce has been through all of those changes, has been there watching the data, analyzing the data, and kind of correlating it to rainfall patterns and things like that. So he is also written into the grant for some contract funding so that we can keep that consistency on the data analysis. So thank you all for being here. So one of the main goals that we have for the program, we've talked a lot about the research and the student focus. Sabrina will talk a lot more about that, but what I wanted to do was just sort of reflect on the overall goal that we had before we got into the weeds, before we wrote the deliverables and before we really got down to it. So, our goal really is for the Defiance College to establish their research center, right? To have student research, have applied research, have those programs that will make the student research very relevant to the city and their source water, our source water protection plan and programs and our watershed approach. But really the city's responsibility, and what I'm primarily responsible for as the project coordinator, is establishing this Maumee River Watershed Advisory Council. So we have yet to convene that first meeting. We'll do that in January. I've talked to a number of you, some of you on the call, some folks who couldn't be here today, about being part of that advisory council. Really, that group is not going to be making a lot of decisions, but they're going to be advising us, right? They're going to bring us information about what's relevant. What are those potential research projects out there? What are those sites that are good candidates for edge of field research? We have a denitrifying bioreactor. We have a phosphorus filter bed, cascading grass waterway. So we want those projects that are out in the community to be available and to be for students at Defiance College and even some high school students to be able to research those real world projects that we've got already in the community and already in the watershed. So that advisory group will really be giving input to myself and to Dr. Brown and helping guide us and make sure that we're understanding what else is going on, kind of make sure that we're not missing any key points. And we hope that they will continue to be with us through this whole 3-year project. So one of our goals is to continue to find sustainable long-term funding sources. And so we'll be looking to that advisory council to help give us direction with that as well. Bobby Mills, you have been instrumental in us getting this. I want to thank you for being here. I know you have worked closely with Defiance College and with Dr. Mankey, and we've gotten to know you pretty well here at the city also. This opportunity for Erica Krause and some of Senator Brown's staff to be here. We know where the funding came from, and we're very thankful that he was able to put that forward in his congressionally directed spending request. So it is through the Department of Education. Just to be clear, the funding is going to Defiance College through the Department of Education. It is through the Fund for the Improvement of Post-Secondary Education. And we will be glad to share more details if anybody's interested in that. But really, in a nutshell, the funding is going to Defiance College, and then we have a partnership between the city and the college to help cover some of the costs that the city will be incurring for time and for other some of the other expertise that we have in our watershed work. So Bobby, did you want to say anything while we're here on this?
Well, let me
Paul?
just quickly say that all kudos should go to Senator Brown. As someone who used to be on the Appropriations Committee staff, I know the amount of projects that went through his office, and the fact that we made his list, we should all be very proud of, and also very proud of the work that Erica and her team did, because they get inundated with requests and have to sift through and recommend initiatives to the senator. They did a great job. They were very helpful during the whole process of getting our paperwork in and so forth. So kudos to Senator Brown and to all of you for being as far along as you are. I'm thrilled. I agree with the mayor. I think we've got a real opportunity here, and you have a great team in place. And I'm just want to be the caboose on this train. That's all I can say. So thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. We look to you for that, getting us started. So if you're looking to be the caboose, that's going to help us bring it full circle, really. So appreciate your support and your encouragement and your help and guidance along the way. So,
and I'm honored now to be on the board of Defiance College. So hopefully I can bring some input to the board as they pursue initiatives like this one to help the college and equally important, help the City of Defiance.
Yeah, great. Thank you. There we go. So I don't necessarily need to read all of this, but really the important thing, and I said some of these things on the slide about the Watershed Advisory Council. We are very focused on the City of Defiance and the source water protection aspect, right? What does that mean? It means that the city's only source of drinking water is the Maumee River. And when you subdivide the watersheds, it's really the upper Maumee River. It's not the entire stretch of it. So not only, and here's a slide that many of you have seen and many of you are familiar with. This is from 2014 in the Toledo water crisis days, right? But this aerial view here and the smallest, shallowest, most, in my opinion, most important lake, most biologically diverse is Lake Erie. So you've all seen this, but what many of you don't know, or what many in the watershed don't know, is that thanks to Kevin Connor, he snapped a great picture. It's not a great picture, but it illustrates an important point, in that the Maumee River in Defiance also looks like this. It's not just Lake Erie, right? So my red dot or my red circle didn't say where it was supposed to. That red circle should actually be here on this dark gray watershed, which is the upper Maumee. So everything that comes to us from Fort Wayne, through these small tributaries in Defiance County and Paulding County, this stretch of the Maumee River, like I said, is the only source of drinking water that we have for the citizens in Defiance. But also we are the only community that uses this stretch, this entire stretch. Defiance is the only community that uses it for drinking water. So Fort Wayne uses the St. Joe River. Many of the suburbs here in Fort Wayne use the Fort Wayne water system. And as far as we know, there are really, if I can be proven wrong, that's great, because that will give us another partner and another ally in this. Adam, I think you said at one point, it's like we're the Alamo, it's like the last stop, right? Like we are the only community that's actually using this. And it has just as many problems at times as Lake Erie. And we know Lake Erie gets a lot of attention, and rightfully so. But our focus is really on taking that same approach and saying, hey, let's stop the problem before it gets to Lake Erie. Let's look upstream. Let's look to our partners in Fort Wayne. Several of you were on the call. I was in Fort Wayne last night for a meeting with the Maumee Watershed Alliance. So those kinds of partners will help round out our Watershed Advisory Council, and will help really deliver what I'm going to pass this over to Sabrina, and she's going to talk about some of the logistics and the deliverables that we've outlined. But that's the intent behind it, right? Is that we really are focused on the upper Maumee and providing good drinking water here for the citizens of Defiance, and Defiance College is going to be an invaluable resource to help us accomplish that. So
Thanks, Jen. Do you want to click through the slides for me, or do you want me to?
Yeah,
have
sure.
them?
I think
Okay.
I think we're co-hosts, so whatever
Okay.
you're comfortable with. Yeah,
I don't know if I have it. I don't know if I can.
okay.
Okay, I'll just let you know when I'm ready. Okay. All right, so as Jen mentioned, I'm really focused on education opportunities supported within this grant, right? So we're working with Tetra Tech to really try to find applied research questions within the Upper Maumee watershed. So as an academic, I feel like we do a lot of like science for the sake of science, right? Like we sort of teach the scientific method of like, oh, you generate a question and it's very creative and it can be, like, just like a question that you're interested in, and then you can pursue that. Where it, like when you actually become a scientist, you realize that you tend to work in these applied question type situations, right? Because that's the only way that you get money, right? And funding is to actually apply your research to real world problems, right? So really focusing on teaching students how to create applied research questions, and so supporting them in developing projects that are specifically related to Maumee watershed concerns, right? And so partnering, right, with the city and other entities to help do useful research, right? Like research that has a meaning and also gives students the experience of conducting research, right? So the good thing is, one thing, right, we already have a ton of data sources available to us within the watershed and beyond. And so one thing is that we will be working with students to just analyze data sources, right, use those to support their research. And then we will also be collecting new data and analyzing that as well. Next slide, Jen, please. All right, so we did not give you the entire 2-page schedule of our work, right? So we have basically several action items that we want to accomplish over the 3 years of this grant. And so overall, our goal is to create this partnership between the college and the city that offers these experiential learning opportunities for both college students and secondary students to address, right, excess nutrients and other issues in the Upper Maumee River watershed. So sort of our umbrella, as we like to call it, is the Defiance Research Alliance. And then within the Defiance Research Alliance, we actually have 2 buckets. And so one of those buckets is establishing the Maumee River Watershed Research Center, and the other one is developing the Maumee River Watershed Council. So if you click next, Jen, we'll highlight what we're doing to establish the Maumee River Watershed Research Center. So as project director, I've really taken on, right, establishing this research center, which will be housed at Defiance College. And so far we have been working a lot on renovations. So, facilities started last week in the laboratory space that we put aside to house the research center. They started demoing and have already made huge strides in renovating that space. So that's a space that was created as a teaching classroom 1985, 1987. I can't remember when the building was built, but when the building was built in the 80s, right, that was what was put into the space, and it hasn't had a ton of renovation to it since then. So we're having a totally innovative space that we are renovating into a place that will be both, right, a teaching classroom and a research classroom. So we can bring, students in and have sort of seminar-based courses, but also have, laboratory tactile work. So, right, so part of that is the physical space. And then the other part is establishing the research program within the research center, which I can talk way more about on other slides. But those include offering water qualities topics, courses, getting students involved in various aspects of research outside of the classroom, having Kat work on research protocols. And then throughout the project, we'll be disseminating information to the general public. One thing that we really wanted to focus on was having students help us tell the general public the important information from the data, right? Because I feel like we are excited and we collect all this data, and the question the question is always, who wants this data? What are we doing with this data? How is it being made? How is it being used to make decisions? And, you know, why does the general public care about water quality? And so having the students involved in that dissemination is really important to us. And then obviously this is just a 3-year grant, but we envision that the Defiance Research Alliance will, you know, be in existence for a long time. So we are working on, you know, securing funding to continue our efforts. I'm ready for the next one now, Jen. Sorry, talk a lot. Okay, so on the research, on the Watershed Council side, that's what Jen has really been in charge of. And this is really like developing that structured side of the working relationship between entities in Defiance. And so we have a tiered model where we have our working group, and then we also have an executive council, and then now working on establishing, right, this advisory council. So on that side, we also will be creating a new agricultural best management demonstration project. So we have funds to establish a new demonstration project, and we'll also have students have the availability to study existing demonstration projects. And then again, working on disseminating project information, right, securing funding to continue on with our efforts past the grant. Okay, so again, very simplified timeline. We had like a 1 whole page timeline, but I really parsed this down to the things that I thought you as members of stakeholders, right, who potential members of an advisory council might be interested in. So this is again color coded based on those colors that were on the previous slide. So Jen, you can click next.
Sure. Do you want me to jump in and talk just briefly about that? The Watershed Council, you kind of went over it on the last slide.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's important to note that we have, if you look at the top, right, there's three years. There's our establishment phase, there's our research phase, and there's our dissemination phase. We'll be doing dissemination throughout the project, but we received the funding award in mid-September. And so we're at the tail end of that very first quarter, right? So like I said, we've been meeting and talking about this since I think we submitted our request in the spring of 2021. So we've been talking and thinking and planning. And so this establishment phase, Sabrina and I could talk about each one of these slides for an hour probably, because we've invested a lot of time, and a lot of the foundational work has gone into what you see here. That's very, very simplified, but that edge of field practice, that opportunity to install a demonstration project, that might be on city property. The city owns some ground that's currently farmed. We have a farmer that works with us that's very conservation minded and very open to those types of projects. We would potentially be looking for farmer landowners that would be interested in doing that in the upper Maumee watershed. But the intent is, like the cascading grass waterway, like the denitrifying bioreactor, it's something that we can measure, right? We want to make sure that those investments long-term going forward, that those investments are a good use of funding. Where will we get the most nutrient reduction for the dollars spent? So the intent of establishing that demonstration project in the first year and that first phase will allow us then to monitor it through and in perpetuity, but really into the second and third year. And again, establishing that advisory council, we're reaching out to different sectors. Not everybody is represented here today. We have an opportunity to meet directly with the superintendents of the local schools, because their involvement is going to be a little bit different, helping us get the word out about the College Credit Plus classes that Sabrina will talk about later. Meeting with farmers through other avenues. We've got NGOs. We've got a potential advisory council member from the Nature Conservancy, and so we'll engage all of those different sectors to accomplish this advisory council, and then move forward through these. Like Sabrina said, sort of these are just the highlights on our deliverables. There's a lot behind the scenes, but I'll click ahead and let you talk more about this, Sabrina.
Yeah, sure. I talked a lot about this on the previous set of slides. So in our establishment phase for the research center, we are really this year focusing on renovating the lab, getting the equipment ordered so that we are ready to hit the ground running this summer to start collecting data. And then I will be offering a water quality course each spring semester for the next 3 semesters, or next 3 school years. Okay. All right, so again, as we go back to thinking of fostering education opportunities, we want to really think about consistency between projects. So getting students to think about why it's important to take your samples at a certain time of year and how frequently you should take them, to try to parse out different watershed concerns, right? Are we going to want to start sampling before ISOP? Are we going to want to do really heavily sampling in the fall, right? Depending on the question. And then just thinking about the variability in different data sets and how, we can compare data sets, but how we have to take that variability into account when we make those comparisons. And then we will have various mentoring sessions with Tetra Tech to understanding how those practices work and exploring solutions. Next. All right, so if you have a student in your life, this is how they can get involved. So we have, like I mentioned, I will be offering a water quality course each spring for the next 3 years. There's actually 2 courses. One of them is a class that is available. It's a 200 level class, so it's available for entry level Defiance College or any college student who wants to come take it at Defiance College. And also high school students can take it for college credit plus credits. And then I also have an upper level course that's geared more towards like environmental science, biology majors, where they do a little bit more in-depth work within water quality. And then aside from that coursework, we also have some paid internships and assistantships for students. So during every semester and in the summer, there will be a Defiance College assistant student working on research. And then there are also summer internships, 2 summer internships per summer for high school students to come out and do water quality work. So here's just my flyers that I posted up for those courses. So in the spring, those 2 courses are Inquiry in Science, which is a 200 level course, where students, we will be working together to sort of scaffold them through the scientific process, like learning the scientific method by doing the scientific method and focusing on a water quality project. And then that upper division course is Bio 495, which is a special topics course where we're going to focus on fundamentals of water quality, and those students will be creating individual projects to pursue over the course of the semester. All right, so we do have some student positions open right now. Actually, Kat and I are conducting interviews this week for 2 student positions for Defiance College students right now. So because we sort of got late funding, we sort of heard back a little later in the year than we were expecting to hear back for the funding. We never hired a student worker in the fall semester. So we actually have 2 student positions open for the spring semester this year. One of them will be water quality research assistant, right, doing field and laboratory work. And then the other one will be a communications assistant, where they will be working on sort of developing some of those communications with the public, right, developing potentially, a website and social media and those types of things. And then I expect we will start the recruiting and hiring process for those high school water quality research assistants in the spring, right? Because that position would start in late May. Okay, so how can you get involved? Jen, you can help me out on this slide if you want to.
I feel like we're just very thorough because we have talked about this already, right? So we want to know about those projects that are out there. I think there's in Northeast Indiana, I think there's a nutrient recovery project that may be expanding. maybe there's an opportunity for research on that type of project. A lot of these are collaborative projects where we've got a number of different partners. So letting us know about those projects. We've got, and maybe I'll put Joe on the spot or Adam to talk a little bit about our smart water project that we're doing here at the City of Defiance, which is also water quality monitoring. But these practices are specifically edge of field practices where we can say what's going into the practice, what's going into this filter, right? What is the water quality going in and what is the water quality going out? There's some very good examples of this. Also Northeast Indiana, which is part of the Upper Maumee Watershed. There's a project on Black Creek, which I think is in one of the slides that Bruce provided to us. So understanding where those research opportunities are, that's going to be a really vital part of this, because we want those students to find projects. We're not going to direct students and say you have to study this for us, right? We want to provide a suite of opportunities and then let students say, oh, this is something that is of interest to me, and make sure that those are communicated. So we are always looking for input. We know that there's a network. We've had a few conversations with Chris Winslow from Ohio State University. I don't know if I said that right, but but Chris has been somebody that's been involved in water quality research throughout the state, and they have what's called a Learn network. So we are working with H2 Ohio. The City of Defiance actually has a wetland project that is funded by the state and by H2 Ohio. So that Learn Lake Erie Research Network, I might have forgotten an acronym in there, but those opportunities will also be part of what we talk about at the Watershed Council and things that Sabrina and I will be staying abreast of. And those articles that you send from the Blade, Mayor McCann, those are important because it helps us keep in context what's going on in the rest of the in the rest of the water quality research world, and especially in this it's a very large watershed, but it's a small Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana community. So Sabrina, I think you were going to talk a little bit about ways that folks could get involved, professionals could get involved, maybe within your classes. As if I go to the next slide, I think that kind of outlines some of the things that we thought about for folks that are interested but may not be able to participate in the advisory council, or may not be in a sector that has as much of a role. But we've got a place for everybody. If you want to be involved, we will find a way for you to be involved, and we welcome that collaboration.
Yeah, sure. So if you are interested in engaging with students, some ideas are we could have guest speakers in courses in that water quality course in the spring. If you would like to be a guest speaker, I would be more than happy to have you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the spring, right? If you would like to be, if you would be interested in speaking to students, like we could make that opportunity work at any time, virtually or in person. And so one thing that the students really enjoy are tours of places. So last summer, I took my summer research students on a tour of the water treatment plant and the wastewater plant, and they loved it and they thought it was super interesting. So if you have a farm or a workspace that you think students within, right, the environmental science water quality realm would be interested in, they would love that, right? I think that is really an important piece for them to like be able to get out and see, right, what they might be doing, right, in the future, right, as a job, right, or why, we care about these different places in regards to water quality. And then we always have students who need internships or are interested in job shadowing. So if you have something, related to water quality that you do at your job that you would be happy to host an intern or a job shadow, we could just work on building those relationships when those students do show interest in water quality. And then I think we'll talk a little bit more just about things that are happening at Defiance College that can complement what we're doing with the Defiance Research Alliance, and sort of geared towards this audience. So one is that we have a strong focus on STEM, and we're working on building a really strong focus on STEM at Defiance College. so that we can be regionally competitive. And so, Defiance Research Alliance is really helping with, establishing this really cool research center, but there's also other initiatives that we have ongoing, right? So we have, I think somebody correct me, 600 something thousand new scholarship money. I didn't prepare. So every year every year for the last 3 years that I've been here, we have been receiving scholarship money specifically to recruit STEM students, so full ride STEM scholarships. And those have really, brought really strong students into our STEM programs. We also have a summer research program where students work with a faculty mentor to conduct research over the summer. And I am involved in that program and do water quality research within that program, but there's also other faculty who do other research opportunities with students. We also have Jacket Journey, which is a career readiness program that students go through so for all 4 years, they go through this career readiness Jacket Journey program. One thing that we run within Jacket Journey in January is we run Jacket Days, and we always have panel discussions and, sort of getting students involved in visiting locations, right? And so that's another place where we could plug you into these site visits and visiting speakers and panel discussion type opportunities. And then unfortunately, one of our biology professors is leaving, but she's an ecologist, and has historically been the position of an ecologist. So if you're looking for a job as an assistant professor of biology or know someone who's graduating soon, that is posted on our website. That QR code goes there. And we would be more than happy to have an ecologist that's interested in water quality apply to that position. That's all I got, Jen.
Thanks. Dr. Caldwell, I see a lot of thumbs up. Is there anything that you'd like to add while we're on this topic?
Thanks, Jennifer and Dr. Brown. Great job. Wonderful presentation. I would just add, since there are so many other folks who may not be aware on the call, that Defiance College has been very fortunate to have the support of the Ohio Department of Higher Education, and has garnered almost well over $2 million to support STEM students from the state of Ohio who go to Ohio schools with scholarship money. Dr. Brown referred to this previously. So if you know students who are interested in the sciences, want to stay in Northwest Ohio and become involved in either some of these initiatives that Dr. Brown and Jen have done such a nice job of explaining, but also other programs that we have at DC, please don't hesitate to have them reach out to admissions@defiance.edu. All of these scholarships are in addition to monies that the college would also offer. And so they range anywhere from our new partnership with the University of North Dakota in engineering to, as Dr. Brown said, environmental science. We also just received our last round of funding last week for $600,000 over 5 years to support students who want to study physical therapy and stay in Ohio. So check us out. We have some great stuff happening, and Dr. Brown and Jen and this partnership is only a little tip of the iceberg of some of the great things happening with the sciences at DC. Thanks, Jen.
Yep, thank you. So we left some space. We weren't sure how long the presentation would take officially. So I've got some links here that I can share about the city's Smart Water Project. This is some of the work that we're doing at the water treatment plant. It's something that Dr. Brown and Caitlin have been involved with. They've been at the water plant. This is something that we hope to see students get involved with going forward. And I've really talked about our source water protection initiative, right? What we do here and what we have at different times called our watershed approach is really all about providing clean drinking water, right? So integrating the different programs. I actually run the city's MS4 program, which is a mouthful, but it's our urban stormwater program, right? Applying to taking the things that we do here and applying those to Ohio EPA compliance, right? We have EPA compliance for the water plant, for the wastewater plant, for the MS4 program. And some of those things that we do within the MS4 program or others have shifted, and we've really been looking at more of a holistic approach. And this source water protection and this watershed approach has really taken us down a road that's been very, very innovative, and we've been able to get a lot of funding for these different projects. So we have the Great Lakes Observing System is the acronym there, that GLOSS project. We were funded for almost $100,000 of equipment at the water treatment plant. There's a lot of bugs to work out. There's a lot of, nothing about it is perfect, but it's giving us a lot of really good data that contributes to the overall body of knowledge in the Western Lake Erie Basin, but also, and more importantly, it helps us control things at the water treatment plant. It helps us understand how to manage the reservoir. Again, managing the reservoir, taking the Maumee River when it sometimes looks like pea soup and trying to decide when to put it into the reservoir. That was the intent of this program. The conservation kick, we got some funding from the Great Lakes Commission to install one of these edge of field practices. And that again is in the Upper Maumee, working behind the scenes with USGS and others who are again part of that overall knowledge base and the research that happens in the watershed. But again, looking at monitoring and understanding. I had a former colleague who said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So we have a lot of efforts here at the city that are integrating these different concepts. Rather than talk about them in more detail, I think what I'll do is leave space for questions. I saw a few comments come through on the chat. But if anybody would like to add anything, I've called a few people out specifically, Adam, Joe. You haven't had a chance to say anything. Bruce, you're on the call, part of that core team. So if anybody would like to comment, maybe raise your hand or just jump in. We do have just a couple more minutes. So I'll put contact information up for Sabrina and myself, Dr. Brown and myself, and we welcome your emails, your calls, and any input or any suggestions that you have for us going forward. So, and we'll be glad to stay if anybody wants to talk further. So,
Jen, I'd like to add real quick if I can. This Defiance Alliance is interesting because the Upper Maumee is in a lot worse shape than most people understand, and it is a very, very stressed watershed, and it is a very big contributor to the lake. And so there's and it is heavily ag influenced. So it's a really interesting chunk of river to research, and it's gonna have to be part of the solution. So I think it really provides a really good opportunity for Defiance College, and for, of course, the city can get the benefits, but it has some very specific things that really calls it out as special.
Yeah, Adam, we had Smart Water workshop in the spring where we really focused on that dashboard and that equipment that we installed at the water treatment plant. And I think we said there, we could do a deep dive on a number of topics, right? The fact that the ammonia levels in the Maumee River are strangely high compared to other places. So those are the kinds of things that we're going to really massage through the core working group and the Watershed Advisory Council. And, why is this? Can we get to a point, back to something that Dr. Mankey said, we have no interest in pointing fingers, right? We really want to be collaborators and say, hey, we know that there's resources out here to install practices, to implement conservation practices. There's no shortage of funding for the implementation. So really being able to hone in on where that funding can have the best and highest use, where we can have the most impact, and really, like Adam said, get to some of the bottom of it. I mean, I've been here over 10 years, and I know some of the things that I heard Adam say when I started are still true. We still don't have answers to some of those things. So I feel like we're at kind of at a tipping point, and we should get some good results. I see Dr. Mankey. If others want to comment, please, but I'll defer to Dr. Mankey here since she so politely raised her hand in the chat. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for the information today, for joining the webinar, for being interested in this. We know, and I think today puts an exclamation point on how important this is. But I also wanted to do a final thank you to Senator Brown's office, to Senator Brown for marching this through for us, and for Erica and all the folks in Senator Brown's office who she reached out to after she took numerous phone calls from me. And it was just so very important. And of course, just another thank you to Bobby Mills, who is an expert in this area and now as a trustee brings such wisdom and good ideas and ways to think about things to our campus. So I look forward to working with all of you as we move forward and to getting some results that help us survive as human beings who can only go 3 days without good drinking water. Thank you very much.
Any other final thoughts or comments?
This is Bobby, and I would echo what Dr. Mankey said to Senator Brown's office for his vision and seeing what we had in mind here and really making it all possible. One of the things I sent in a chat and Dr. Caldwell responded, I think this is so impressive and so important that, and I'm glad to hear that you're aiming in this direction. You can't do everything in the first 3 months of existence, but sitting down with the EPA and their Great Lakes program people, I had the privilege of working with late Senator Bill Proxmire of Wisconsin, who was actually the one who created the Great Lakes Research Program back in the 70s and 80s. That there's a lot of money there. And in looking at, I'm always looking at sustainability of this impressive initiative. And EPA has existing grant money there. I would think the Department of Agriculture would be very interested in what you're doing as well. So I know you've already thought about this, but I think that this is a real opportunity to sit down with the big boys who have a lot of money outside of the congressionally targeted funding initiatives and really let them know what you're doing, because I think they'll be as impressed or more than I am with what you're doing. So I think that's among all the things that you're doing, that would be a very important next step to look at them for sustainable funding, even beyond the 3 years, and to augment the funding that Senator Brown was able to get you this year. So I congratulate all of you. This is extraordinarily impressive, and you've made tremendous strides in a short period of time. So I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Thanks, Bobby. No, those are all good suggestions and comments, and we have not focused a lot on the long-term funding yet, right? We're still getting the ball rolling down the hill, and I feel like once it does start rolling down the hill, I feel like we're going to have a hard time stopping it. We've got a lot of good momentum thus far. We've got a lot of good interest. I'm so happy to see so many folks here from a wide range of interest. And so I'm very optimistic. I appreciate everybody's comments and everybody's time. We'll give you just a couple minutes back of your day, and we'll just go ahead and end it right there. If anybody wants to stick around for any discussion or any further questions, glad to do that. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.